Okay, so, we have 4 regular members. Let's start the meeting, let's call the meeting to order, let's figure out who's here, who's not. David, Sarah, Kathleen, myself, and we need to have 2 people. Dick, you are the least senior alternate. Can you believe that? Can you feel like, I mean, that's impossible. Have you ever been the junior person for how long?
He was chairman one time.
I mean, you know, the last shall be first and the first shall be last and
Right.
something like that, biblical, I think. So,
At my age,
oh, I'm not going to virgin status, no way. All right, so that means Jim, Huntley, we are voting members this evening.
Wow. I'm getting nervous.
It's a lot of pressure,
Yes.
a lot of pressure. But as our rules state, even though you are not officially as an alternate a voting member, you're fully able to participate in our meeting, which is kind of a little bit different than what the RSA say, but our rules of procedure suggest otherwise. So I'm going with our rules of procedure because they're jocks.
right, you run the meeting, and you can actually, we looked into it, and you don't have to follow any of the procedures posted to you. You run the meeting the way you want to run it. So,
Well,
I
within
accept that.
within reason.
Right, right.
All right, so we have an agenda. I think we have 2 official things that we have to do with voting. And then I'd like to open it up to a conversation for us about what we think we ought to be doing for 2023 priorities, which I think is going to be an interesting conversation. I think just maybe a little bit of fun, because it's all pie in the sky right now. It's not. We don't have to think about the work we're going to do. So we can think about the ideas and see how we feel about them. So, Mr. Secretary.
Public comment is the first. Oh, no, I'm sorry. First, we have to approve the minutes from January.
I move maybe approved.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm hearing no negatives on that. All unanimous.
That's done. Next thing would be public comment, if we have any.
Still no public comment. Okay.
And you'll notice that I did switch up the order so we can have the initiatives at the end. So we have 2 things that we have to talk about. One is a lot merger application. Here is the diagram. One has a building on it and the other one is just property. So that around belongs to the trust, and it's on 52 Mountain View Road and 122 Dundee Road. I don't know how those 2 intersect. Oh, okay.
And at the point of intersection is a fabulous view.
Oh, really?
It's the top of the hill.
Mm.
Bill, would you just hold up the picture of the house so I can just see which house it is?
Sure.
The house is on Dundee Road.
It's Dundee Road.
Okay, yeah, okay,
Sarah says there's a beautiful view there.
Not
yes.
necessarily from the house, but
Not from the house, but
from the other lot. The lot it's at the top of Mountain View Road. assuming that, the revocable trust owns both lots?
Yes, yes, on the sheet, you'll see that
Okay, I
both lots,
didn't look at it that carefully.
both lots are lots in trust.
So they just make it one lot?
Yep.
Fine.
Yeah, it looks like, trying to see the square footage. Doesn't say, it probably does, but I don't know how to read these things.
What does it mean?
I don't know how much property is combining the two together, it's gonna make.
Revocable trust, revocable trust.
Think of the acreage?
We already did a lot adjustment before. Created a private. So, oh, it's 1.6 acres and 1.2 acres. So they're gonna make a decent lot. Any opposed? I mean,
All right, so I need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the voluntary lot merger.
Yeah, you gotta say it out loud.
Oh, okay, well, I'll second.
I have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you.
Next, only because we want to get these things out of the way, is the short-term rental, one short-term rental. It's a 3-bedroom condo approved by septic and building permit to be this. However, there is a note here, actually from the owner, that they are in the process of, this is, I think, in Wentworth, 310 Wentworth Hall Avenue. They're in the process of getting egress windows installed in the basement for that order. So that would be the comment that we can give to the planning board. But they've been ordered, Kevin knows about it, Kevin is aware that they're ordered, and they have a building permit for them once they come in.
Yeah, just information on that, the windows that they have to use are prescribed, and so they have to order from the same manufacturer. Last year, there was a 15-month backlog on getting those windows. And the supply chain has improved some, but there's still some 3 to 6 months in getting some of that stuff, which Dick, you probably understand the supply chain better than most of us, and getting materials, especially if you need a specific item from a specific manufacturer. So we've had other applications where that's been the case during the last 2 years. And Kevin's kind of the point person for ensuring that they follow through. But yeah, we do need to identify it as a comment, and then the select board can decide what they want to do for either approval or rejection. So, do I hear a motion?
Just have one question. They classify themselves in the village district. Is that address, anything in Wentworth considered the village district?
It's all commercial, isn't it?
It all commercial.
Wentworth.
Is it within the 500 feet of?
It is not, however, we agreed that any property within the Wentworth property would be treated as if it were in the commercial district, even though, we can talk about this later, when we're talking about initiatives for 2023. But right now, it is actually in the village, it is
Okay.
not in the village district, it's in the, if it says it's residential, it is in the residential district.
They checked off village, and that's why I want to make sure.
Oh, okay, and it could be, yeah.
They checked off village district, which means they're not obligated to the 30 rentals. So,
And we agreed that we would do Wentworth, all of them the same.
okay, just want to make sure that that's.
And they would not start renting it until after they got their windows? in?
Yes, they can. That's what they're waiting for.
All right. Any more discussion before I make a request for a motion? A motion to accept?
Me.
Second?
motion to accept and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Wow, that's our official business done. Thank you.
Yep.
The rest of the agenda is not a vote, but it's probably as important as anything we'll talk about all year. And that is that we need to decide what we're going to accomplish this year. We can't sit on our laurels. Each year we seem to accomplish something, which is good. But the solar ordinance will or won't pass in March. And if it doesn't, then we'll have more work to do on it. But assuming it does pass, we have a fairly open slate, except for the fact that I believe this, now, David, has the select board actually voted or not
It would
voted?
be on Tuesday's meeting.
On Tuesday's meeting, they voted to authorize a capital improvements program, which we kind of, all of us who are on the facilities committee kind of expected that the baton would be passed to us, largely because the facilities committee did a bunch of work, a bunch of yeoman work, but did not make a lot of progress on figuring out how we were going to pay for improvements going forward, or what priorities we ought to have, which I thought were the two things that were the most critical factors of what the facilities committee was trying to accomplish. So I think the work they did is useful work. I think the work that this gentleman did in terms of putting together the survey and the responses and compiling that data, which was a lot of compilation because of the structure
Right.
that you created. That's crazy. I mean, I know you said yes to everybody, which was crazy, in allowing it, but and we got some good input, but it really didn't provide the kind of hard work that needs to get done. Sarah, you've done this before. Dick, you've done this before? The capital improvements program?
Yeah,
Okay. Kathy, I know you guys did at least something on this back in 2018, before we didn't get authorized. It's a lot of work. And it's a lot of decision-making. I'll need a lot of assistance and help understanding what kind of resources we're gonna need for that. But it's gonna chew up probably most of our time. And I think we're going to need to listen to an awful lot of people, both within the town structure, but also the townspeople. And I have no certainty that what we'll come up with will be much better than what we have right now. But we should make some progress and at least update what we have. When I went to the meeting at the select board's budget meeting, they were comfortable just simply taking what we did last year and saying, okay, we'll do the same thing this year. And even knowing everything else was increasing by 8, 9, 10%. And they said, well, no, this is what we did last year, the year before. And it's like, okay, that's not okay. To have an assumption that's been sitting out there for a lot of years doesn't necessarily get you in the right place. I mean, it's a good start. You need it. And it's good. The bones of what you did, you guys who did it before, is really good. In fact, it was so good, everyone said, we'll stick with that and we don't have to do anything else. And
No, it needs to be updated because you're, well, the way we did it, the one that I was the most involved in, is that different members of the planning board went out to different agencies, and you got what are their needs, with, you know, their needs and their wants, and with the date, when they would like to get it, and then estimation of how much it was gonna cost. So just getting all that information, and then putting that together into a matrix, so you figure out, well, if you need a new fire truck in five years, and it's gonna cost whatever, and so you divide that up into 5 parts and for a capital improvement, for a capital reserve fund. And then kind of do that for each item, and then see what that does to your tax rate. And then you modify from there and try to get it so that you're equalizing from year to year as best you can, so you don't end up with one year with a huge bump in taxes and another year with, you know, that where it comes down. So it's a matter of just gathering the data, getting, and as I recall when we did it before, everybody took a different agency or department and got the information, rather than just 1 or 2 people going around to get all the information. Split it up and then bring it all back together and put it into a matrix and
Makes sense to me.
see what you come up with.
I do know there's gonna be at least one major project coming out of the facilities subcommittee out of the selectmen, and that's Gray's Inn
Yeah.
Garage.
Mhm.
That is one of the projects that will have a committee to determine what we're going to do with it,
Okay.
and what's the cost of whatever we want to do with it.
Mhm.
Do we wanna, so I have kind of volunteered to be the chairman of that committee, to say, is it worth saving? I've never been inside, I've never seen what the building looks like, so I don't know what shape it is in. And if it is salvageable, because apparently there's 3, this highway, fire, and the library store things in that
Right.
building. So, obviously there's storage needs by these organizations, so do we save it, do we tear it down, build a steel structure in the back that's a little bit more, not an eyesore, but, so that will come out of that meeting, so the cost of tearing it down, the cost of building something or
Mhm.
doing something, that will come out of this committee, that will probably be in for 2020.
How much land is it on?
I don't know exactly how much land. No, there's not much.
Not much, I would think, because Kevin's place, is right next door, and then
And the trail.
the inn, the other side, yeah.
And then there's a trail that actually bumps
Yeah,
in the back of it.
yeah.
And a river.
Yeah, well,
Yes,
yeah, a lot of it is floodplain, so I don't know if you tear it down, how much, and I don't know enough about it, so that's why I'm gonna try to get somebody that's an expert in the building to say,
yeah.
no, this is not worth fixing
Mm.
or remodeling. And the other is going to be parking spaces. Redoing parking spaces and signage, and I don't know how much that's gonna cost, I don't know if that has to be part of the capital improvement, that's another,
I'm hoping that's not large enough that it would require that,
I hope not,
unless you're building parking lots.
No, just going to organize, buy some fencing, some signage to indicate parking in this
Okay,
town.
we've got parking on the street, and then this would be parking, off-street parking?
Better signage for this parking lot next door, because nobody actually knows it's there, you drive by it and you think it's an empty lot. And the parking behind the historical is to make that more organized, so it
Right.
actually looks like you can park there.
Oh, no, we don't want that. We don't want people parking there.
So that was,
We'd rather see them parking in the middle of the road like they do now.
are they doing the Wentworth? No?
Especially when school's getting out.
Oh,
Not in front of the historical, that large lot behind the
Yeah,
historical.
I know,
That's what
but I mean, when they'll pack in where the skating used to be, and then when that space is taken, they pack in the road because there's no place to park, so it blocks traffic coming down.
Where what was?
You know,
Is it skating?
Skating.
well, there used to be a skating rink there, right by the
Really?
gazebo.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the town used
You
to
know, the
have one.
skating rink.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that,
Yeah,
Yeah, wasn't that many years ago.
no.
yeah.
It's gotta be more than 6, but that's all I remember. I was
Yeah.
never up in the winter.
Seems like yesterday.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we'll have a bunch of work to do there. The question is, do we have time for anything else? And I don't know if we will or don't. And so I'd like to open the conversation about what other things people would like to get at this year, if we can.
Yes. And it's one thing that I feel we really have to look at it. I think that no more than 25% of the housing stock should be able to be a short-term rental. I think once we hit 25%, then there are no more, because it's like the fellow up on top of Tyrol said, you know, without neighbors, you have no neighborhood. And they are definitely cutting into neighborhoods.
This has been behind a lot of the issues that I brought up over the last year. You know, I've asked, what is the total number of short-term rentals in this town that we could identify to the public? Because I think the average person doesn't know.
No.
We have 110 now.
110, and it's posted on the Jackson website.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything legal you can do to stop that, can you? I mean, state-wise, legal, you know, tell
Right.
somebody they can't have short-term rental if they agree, if they meet all the requirements?
It's a great question. We would have to work with council to determine what kinds of limitations we might have. I know when we put together the short-term rental ordinance that we did, that we were told no uncertain terms that if we tried to do something like that, what you described, that we would be spending $200,000 to $400,000 in legal fees, which Peter was very happy to suggest that if he wanted to do that, that he needed some more money to pay for some college education for his kids. And, you know,
Yeah.
but it was like, and you see what Conway's going through, you see what Madison is going through. Each of them are involved, have spent somewhere between $50,000 and $200,000 in legal fees already.
The big thing to do then is start changing, you know, the people in Concord.
Well, that's really where it needs to get done, and I don't know,
The cat's already out of the bag, let's put it that way.
But it's likely not to
Right, put
get
it back
done in Concord
it's
if
like,
it isn't, if the issue isn't forced by people in the cities and towns.
right, yeah, and so I guess the question I have is for any kind of this activity where we're going ahead of the curve on it, do we really intend to or want to spend the town's money on legal fees?
I think that, you know, by the time our generation is gone, the next generation is gonna be looking at Jackson, and it's gonna be the majority of short-term rentals. Is that what we want?
It may be, I don't know.
It's not
But
what I
it's not what I want.
You know?
Is it
Well,
worth
we have to
doing?
stay,
Pardon?
we have to stay abreast of whatever the state is gonna hand down to us
Yeah.
as far as, any
State
new
of Maine is a
regulations,
tourist area.
or if we wanna try to craft
That's about it.
something of our own. But my suggestion would be to just stay aware of what the state is doing that would help us and act on that quickly if it comes up. So it's just like a sidebar to our agenda, but if it comes up, then we should, be mentally prepared to act on it pretty quickly.
Yeah, Dick, one of the things that my thought was is that we should be hearing on the Conway case, and I'm not sure if it's going to provide us any guidance that's useful for us, but if it does, and also the Madison case, both cases have opportunities to, and there's a third one, I guess also that's brewing in the Bartlett setup. Is it Bartlett? No, it's Conway. It's the
Here's that.
Yeah, the Kearsarge district, there are 3 litigations right now that may be useful to us. The other thing we might do is that we can always ask Jason Dennis to come visit with us and talk through what opportunities we do have. And say, okay, we did this, right, that was what, 18, 19, it was like, it's a 4 or 5 years, 4 years ago?
What, short term?
Yeah,
3 years.
3 years, okay, so it's been out there for a while.
Yeah.
And since it's been out there for a while, maybe there's more information about what we can and can't do that we're not paying attention, we haven't paid attention to so far.
But it's all across the world, it isn't just here.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter goes over to a place in Italy that they rent every year, and it's a short-term rental.
Yeah.
And all across our own country.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to say, in Jackson, you can't do that.
Steamboat Springs did it, like you can't have any in residential neighborhoods.
Well, that's one.
Yeah, well, that's only the only one I know of.
Well, Portsmouth, I thought,
Yeah, Portsmouth won their case.
won that
yeah.
case. They put a lot of restrictions on short-term rentals down in Portsmouth.
And they have a different government.
No, I'm just saying, so.
Yeah, no,
I think it's
just-
monitoring, but there was an editorial in The Sun yesterday where this, I don't know, Mom Shepard, I think was his name, where towns have to realize there is going to be change. And how do we adjust for that change? Yes, do I want all short-term rentals here? No, I would love to have people living here full-time. So instead of saying, how do we prevent short-term rentals, the question should be, how do we get people to live here full-time?
Yeah,
Because then you eliminate short-term rentals.
Give tax incentives to people who are not renting.
Right?
They have tax for
You know,
for
I mean,
everybody, it's just like,
Yeah.
and not only that, but one of the things that everybody forgets, we're not getting young people here, okay? And we need to do that, because then we need to have the school top drawer for people to come and want to have that school for their children. And I keep on hearing how expensive the taxes are here in Jackson. I hear that all the time at our store. And I have to tell everybody, we're number 4 in the state for low taxes here. We have expensive homes, but we have low tax rates. And all this needs to be brought out to the realtors, so when they're having people look at properties that people can come here with. And then I also have a lot of people that have been coming here for years, and they're just about ready to retire and so happy because they can live up here now.
Yep.
That are retiring. So it isn't all, and like I said, it's really hard to, and we have it. We have, we monitor how many rooms there are and how many people can stay there and things like that. We have that in our zoning thing. So we are working on it. But like I said, it's getting young people to move here, or people that have been here with their parents and they're gonna take over their homes. And, but our school system needs to be, and it still is, it's one of the top of it. You go to the graduation ceremonies here, and it's mostly everybody from Jackson is a valedictorian or salutatorian or whatever you wanna call it. But that's how we get young people here. And what are they gonna do for a job? It's a continuous thing, it isn't just one answer that you can give.
Well, people that are gonna live in Jackson aren't gonna work in this area.
No.
They're gonna work remote. For companies out of
exactly.
Boston, out of New
Exactly.
York, out of LA,
Yes.
they're gonna be remote workers.
I-
That's who can afford to live.
I wish, and I'll probably get time for saying this, but I wish that Bartlett and Jackson, and unfortunately, it's too many of the natives, here I am a native, but that are against doing anything together, but we need one school, one fire department, and one police station to take care of both towns. And it's sad because we're wasting energy with all the different buildings that we have, Bartlett has. It's too bad the two towns and the actual people have so much in common. I'm 100% against putting any more money into our schools as far as additions. I've seen the flooding in the basement and we're limited for space. So it's a win-win for Bartlett and Jackson. And it's sad that the two towns can't work together.
We lose our community, we lose our school.
Well, I
I'm a real
agree.
proponent of schooling, we
I
really
mean,
do.
if you wanna kill Jackson, I think that's what you just
Yeah.
described
Yes.
will kill Jackson.
I
I don't think
see the
Jackson
kids-
will exist in
Then
it.
Yes.
K through 4 and 5 and 6 go to
I
Brighton.
guess what I'm suggesting is that there are likely to be ways that we could better work together.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with you on that, but I think the sense that you remove the two organizations, you lose the town.
yeah.
I used to
And
joke,
so,
you used to put a gate across the covered bridge, only old people are allowed in here. When I'm here in the offices in the morning, I see the kids walk down to the library, I see them playing in the ball field, and I get a smile on my face, because,
I'm with you.
yeah,
Yesterday or the day before, I was going on an errand and driving down the loop here.
Mhm.
And here were two groups of children
Mhm.
with a teacher in front and a teacher in back, heading down toward the library.
yes, yes.
And if we become short-term rental, that's gone.
Mhm.
You're not gonna see anything like that. But it's a wonderful thing to see. It makes you feel at
Yes,
home.
exactly.
and so the question is, how can we do more of that?
Yes.
And right now, the economics of it is that the economics is pushing us to more short-term rentals. The economics is pushing us to more second homes as opposed to primary homes. And that, that, unfortunately, that ship has already sailed relative to second homes. We're up to the point where we're almost 600 homes now, which is more than 55% of the homes are second homes. They're not full-time homes.
I was talking to a customer of mine yesterday, and they're finally able to move up here. I can't remember where they told me they lived up in here, in Jackson Highlands, I'm sorry. And she was saying, people were saying to her, well, why are you moving where it's cold? And she said,
Right.
because it's peaceful, it's quiet, it's beautiful. You see all the animals out there, and they just moved up here 2 years, or a year and a half ago. And it's just like, so you have both people on both ends. And who wants to live in a community with this old people? That's what I'm saying about the school system. And it's nice to see them playing outside. My kids have all been to that school, and my grandkids have been to that school, and it's nice.
Right, but when I talk to Jen, it's interesting when people say that we need more young people. The children in that school have been consistent for the last few years. There hasn't been a decrease in the number of students in that classroom. So, I mean, it's not like, because everyone say, oh, we're all old people. Yes, that's true. However, when you look at the school, they're still having 40 to 50 students, and that's the
Exactly.
same number of enrollment they've had for the last 5 or 6 years. So
Yes.
it's not tricky. My fear is if all of a sudden we start attracting all these young people, that school's not going to be able to take it.
We're not gonna attract them and grow, believe me, because people can't, like you said, there's no place for them to work other than through Zoom or whatever it is. And that's what's gonna be on the table for a long time.
It's
That's
going to
not-
be permanent.
yes.
But look what happened during 2020,
Mhm.
when all the people in Boston that there are second homes here,
Mhm. They all
Came
came
here.
up,
Yeah.
yes.
the school was overflowing. They had over 60 students in that school
Mhm.
because,
All of a sudden, yeah.
right, so if we attract them, they will come. And if they come, we won't have the resources.
They're not gonna be coming that quickly, believe me.
I don't know, I'm just, well, what's quickly, 5 years? How long does it take to put an addition to a school? It doesn't happen overnight.
They already have the plans for it and everything else.
Dick, you have a comment? Dick?
If I could go back to short-term rentals, there was a discussion a while ago about redistricting or creating district. I don't know if we could create a limited STR district, if that's something that would push our desire to control the STRs. If we could somehow word that into, a residential district, or try it on, the Tyrol. I don't know, but I remember it was suggested by the woman who came down from
North Country Council?
North Country?
North Country Council.
Yeah.
And that was one of the suggestions, was this creating, alternate districts. So anyway, it might be something for the discussion linked into
I know some people have suggested, you know, they're buying it, you know, they're short-term renting it because that's the only way they can afford it.
Yep.
Planning on having a retirement, plan on having it for their kids to come up here to go skiing and everything
Yeah.
else and things like that. And then passing it on as generation to generation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been going on here for a long time.
Yeah.
And, but when you start sectioning off, well, only this area can be, short-term rental, well, it's one of these things, not in my backyard.
Yeah.
And that's what you're gonna get. And, I think it's, and the state is promoting short-term rentals, and we would be going up against the state as far as making their own rules and regulations as far as, it's a really fine line, it
Yeah.
really is, and I think that we have, you know, like, you know, trying to preserve it like we already have with, you know, 3 bedrooms and da-da-da, and who do you know, and trying to keep it quiet here in town, and, which is all good things we've already implemented.
Yeah.
But,
I guess, from my perspective, there are probably some other things we might do to make sure that it's not going to overwhelm us. I guess that
yes.
might,
yes.
yeah, I'm open to listening to that.
Mhm.
I'm not open to the idea that we become poster children for all the realtors in New Hampshire and all the investors, and also about 40% of our homeowners here.
Mhm.
Maybe they don't live here, but maybe it's closer to 60%. I don't know if you want to make my house less attractive to a buyer when I'm ready to sell.
Mhm.
I don't think you want to do that. I don't think you want to take $200,000 out of my pocket. In fact, I might sue you.
Well, I'm thinking about putting a restriction on our house and our property not to ever be subdivided.
But what I'm saying is that when you take opportunity and possibilities from people,
Mhm.
you affect their economics. And when you affect their economics, you start putting your hand in my pocket, I'm going to come after you.
Well, but there's 2 sides to
That's
this.
true.
You know, one side is what you're talking about, but the other side is, what is the town going to look like?
You know?
If the town becomes all short-term rentals, it's no longer a town. And the value of your property will go down anyway.
Really? How
Yes.
about Telluride, where
Well, this is not
where the
Telluride.
closet you buy is $400,000?
Well, I
I'm sorry,
understand.
that's not a good answer.
Yeah, I
What
understand.
it says is that Jackson may not exist as it is
Yeah.
50 years from now. That's true.
Yeah,
And that's possible no matter what we do.
yeah, that's true, that's true,
Ask the residents that live here how they feel,
yeah.
and the majority of them are gonna tell you they don't want short-term rentals.
This is never gonna become Telluride. First of all, the snow doesn't approximate Telluride, you know.
I don't disagree. And in fact, with global warming, we may not have to worry about this because we may not have, even with the snowmaking opportunities, we may not have enough snow
Yeah.
to have cross-country skiing and some of the reasons people live here and want to be
National
here.
forest, that's always gonna be there.
That's
But it
always
is-
here, but it may be less attractive than.
Is it worth doing a survey? Apropos
Yeah.
the comment you just made, is it
I
worth
think
doing a
so.
survey of all the homeowners
You did.
and have them indicate,
It is the number 1 issue, Jim. I
Yeah.
mean, it was. It was.
well, no, I mean, how you feel about it.
It was. It was, that's the facilities committee. Unfortunately, we didn't want that answer, but that's what we got from it.
But everybody in the valley wants it that way, you
Right.
know?
I
It
mean,
isn't just here.
Yeah.
But if you keep your schools going, you keep your community going, you keep
Right.
your people that live here. And that's more important than short-term rentals are.
Yeah.
And, if you get rid of the school or
I mean,
anything else,
why don't we,
you lose it.
why don't we say that everybody has a second home here? You can't buy a second home here. You're gonna say that we can do that?
No,
Oh, wait a minute, you're restricting property rights. Oh, wait a minute, it's the same thing as
Yeah.
short-term rentals. It's the same legal argument that you're
Yeah,
talking
I-
about.
I-
Yeah.
And you're talking about the same thing, and you know what, that's against the law.
yeah.
Mhm.
But there are people buying properties here. One particular individual has 6. Doesn't live here,
Yeah,
has 6 properties.
yeah.
Must be very
Yeah.
wealthy.
We gave somebody permission at one of these meetings, no, I'm sorry, it was a ZBA, to build, build a porch into the setback on a 2-bedroom house.
Yeah.
Family home. They needed the porch because they needed a handicap ramp, because the two grandmothers may need it someday.
Mhm.
Well, my second service call to that house, I met one of the owners, and she said, we buy properties just to rent, and that's just what that property is. And it's been rented as a 3-bedroom, and then a 4-bedroom, and now it's advertised back as a 2-bedroom because they got caught. But it was bought strictly as an investment, not for people to come up and retire here.
And
Strictly
and you
an
know how many
investment.
dollars there are in that business? It's a $2 trillion
Oh,
I was just gonna say
business.
that, yes,
It's
yes.
$2 trillion
Yeah,
that you're
exactly.
talking about.
Yeah,
And what they're doing is they're monetizing where they can.
yeah.
And
And you
I,
can't stop that.
and I had a real estate agent just tell me he saw a property listed in Jackson, 3 bedrooms, sleeps 15,
Mhm.
which I've gotta ask him, because I gotta tell Kevin, but still.
Is he
it's-
going to short-term rental, or is he just saying?
It's a short-term rental. That's
Then
what
it
it's
won't
advertised
pass
as.
us then.
But,
That's how it's being listed? I'm
Yes.
sorry. And that's illegal, but
that's
that's, by the way, that's
oh,
illegal,
I know it is, I know it is.
according to the ethics of the,
And the agent that told me who it was too, that's why he was telling me.
yeah. Is that the property that, was being, noticed last time? The board met, not this last one, but the meeting before. It's a current home that's being listed? Yeah, they've already sent
Oh, yeah,
a
they-
cease and desist 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we have control over that, because we have it written down.
Hmm.
And their first notice was already been sent.
Because I get into a difficult situation where I deal with a customer and all of a sudden, you know, they tell me they're renting it short term, and it's like, you know, I can't really say anything,
Yeah.
not that I don't care, because I don't care if I have the work or not, but it's just, the point is that how many of those are there?
And now, are these people that haven't come to the town to get their permit?
Right. I'm not even sure he's aware of it. Joyce was gonna just kind of put a note in the bill, just to say something, but,
Copy of the,
because I work for them, I work for their parents, you know, it's the same house, it's just a vacation home.
Mm.
Are they actually getting money for it, or are they just friends coming up? There's the others.
Short-term rental, advertised, so it's, yes, it's
Okay.
being.
Well, and then that brings up the question of whether or not the Board of Selectmen is actually doing what they should be doing relative to enforcement.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, and that should be brought up to them because they're the ones that,
Exactly.
I mean, I don't think they're monitoring on an ongoing basis. I mean,
Kevin at one point was checking, I know, online, but I'm not sure he has time now, I mean, he's
Right.
pretty busy.
I think this is a never-ending story.
Yeah,
I mean, it's here forever.
And again, it may be that what we need to do is charge more or charge regularly for fees for permit holders so that you have to use the monies for enforcement purposes.
we discussed that at the meeting when we did this, and you know, the board wasn't for it.
Yeah.
Charging more money,
Yeah.
because they weren't charging, in my mind, they weren't charging anywhere near
Yeah,
enough.
I mean, again, those are all things that you can talk about, you can consider, we could look at that. The question is whether or not it makes sense to do that this year or not. My sense is that while there's still litigation going out there, and it doesn't make sense for us to jump on it. But I agree with Dick, if there's something that's useful for us, or is informative in terms of saying, here's what you can and can't do, and it provides an opportunity for us to, I think what all of us are thinking, it needs to be right-sized. I mean, that ideally, we don't want to eliminate it, we want to right-size it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so how do you do that? And right now, we don't have a lot of tools. And the more tools we have available to us, the more likely we can do that.
But what's sad is that, you know, unfortunately, there's too many lawyers, but, in my mind, but we're destroying the quality of living for people that live here
Mm.
to make room for short-term rentals. And that bothers me.
I mean, I see it also as that you have a lot of communities that are all fighting independently
Yeah,
Mm.
against the state versus,
Mm.
that group.
would it be better for this communities, like even Bartlett, Conway, Ossipee, you know, all of them to join together
Yeah.
to say we need change, we need help. And we are fortunate, we have
With Chris.
Chris on our board
Yeah.
that, you know, I mean, that's the voice. I mean, that's the only change you're gonna make
Yeah.
if we get some direction. But you have all these lawsuits that who knows, the courts are gonna make a decision. And unfortunately, you never know what the courts are gonna do.
But the argument of, there's a lot of other things going on, kicking the can down the road is never gonna solve the problem. You know, because you can reach a point beyond which nothing can be done. When it gets oversaturated, it's hard to get that property back.
Are you talking about global warming?
We don't have
I
any.
could talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
That's climate
Let's
change.
cut color on that.
That's
That's a great
climate change.
idea, Phil. Way to go.
Okay, so, you know, it sounds like some of what we're talking about is kind of the same kind of argument. We
Yeah,
don't want it to happen, yeah, and what efforts can we make?
Yeah.
What things can we do, not do, what are we willing to do, what's acceptable? And we're caught in the middle.
yeah. Hey, we're only a small group of people, but there's nothing wrong with trying.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with putting together what we feel is our best effort, and if it gets voted down, it gets voted down.
It's
Well-
never gonna happen in the state because of the fact we are a tourist area. The state is making a lot of money off of tourists.
I understand.
And it's not going to be eliminated because it's cat's out of the bag. I said it's all around the world. It's not gonna be stopped. And
Yeah.
all we can do is regulate it by how many rooms that they can have and things like that.
Yeah,
And it's taking money out of people's pockets. They're
Yeah.
investing and they're gonna be living here when they retire, or they're gonna bring their kids up at a certain time. I mean, it's like, you don't know what's in people's minds.
But if they gave us some tools to do inspections,
Mhm.
we can't do that.
Yeah.
Okay? We can't do it, so.
Yeah.
Can't they give us some direction on that?
You wanna bet?
To
You're
have
not gonna be
inspection?
able to do it.
I'm,
I mean, it's like
But if
kicking the
you
can
never-
down the road and it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, those are the things, I'm not saying
Oh,
that
I
they're gonna put it on a
understand,
plan.
I
I'm
understand
just
certainly,
saying,
I would love it to be the way you're talking about it.
let's,
but see, David, in my mind, I differentiate the individual, like me or someone else, who lives here or comes up here as a second home, and then rents it from time to time. I differentiate that from the person you mentioned,
Yes.
who bought 6 homes,
Oh,
and is
definitely.
never
that's
intending to be
impossible.
here.
Yes.
That to me is a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yeah,
Because who's to say, me as a person that can afford to buy 5 homes, why? Why can't I do that?
yeah.
To me, it's the same.
Which country do you live in?
It's the
I'm
same,
not sure anymore. that
it's the
they-
same thing. If you rent your house for money,
Yeah,
you're the same as someone who just buys it to rent it for money.
yeah.
You're making money out of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
If you buy a house and your second house and you let your cousins and your nephews and your grandkids and your great-grandkids use your house when you're not here,
yeah,
and you're not charging them hopefully, then that's different.
yeah, I understand.
But you make money, you're no different.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just telling you in my mind.
Because in theory, you should have the taxes,
Yeah.
you should have the meal and,
Room meals tax, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you charge, you gotta have one.
yeah, I know everything you're saying, and I know it's all.
Because that's what
all-
Conway's trying to do.
I'm just telling you my feeling.
Yeah, and
That's all.
everything that you're saying is, or, you know, you weren't on the board when we did this, but we went through this. We went through every single one of these arguments, and we beat ourselves up on it.
Yeah.
I did, for sure, because I don't particularly like the idea of short-term rentals for the same reason you don't like short-term
Yeah.
rentals. But I also live in America. I
Yeah.
also live in the United States of America. I have property rights.
Yeah,
I live in a country where you buy things because you can.
right,
And if you can't do that, you need to leave this country and find some socialist country
yeah,
that you don't want to belong to.
right,
I mean, this is America.
yeah,
we have certain rights, and you can shake your head all you want, Huntley,
Yeah.
but that's part of where we're at. And I think New Hampshire particularly has avoided a lot of that up here in the hinterlands,
I agree with you.
because, and, you know,
Yeah.
go to Connecticut, and you would be shaking your head every day, every minute of every day at what goes on there.
I realize, but I don't live in Connecticut, and I grew up here, and I love it here, and I stayed here, but I would like to slow things down a little bit.
I think we all would.
We all would.
Yeah,
We all would.
yeah.
But you can see from all the people here, how interested people are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Look at the selectmen meeting, same thing.
Mhm.
Conway deals with the same problem.
Yeah.
Nobody shows up for it. And that's a larger town, and nobody
Yeah.
cares. Nobody shows up for the meeting,
Well,
so.
you see it. in the
Every
paper.
point you've made, I totally agree with. But it doesn't change the fact.
Yeah,
that in this
ex-
town-
exactly.
Yeah,
I think we
Exactly.
have a
So,
one-
and that's the conundrum.
Right.
That is the
Yeah.
deal. That,
Yes.
it's
But
the
people
thing that
do live
robs
here
both
do-
ways.
do love each other. They do love the community. We are very much of a community-oriented people. Their neighbors, we're concerned about them.
Yeah.
I mean, we really are, and it's so evident in so many ways here. And I think we're really privileged to live here,
Yeah,
and we are. So, like I said, I have to live here at Cover Bridge, nobody can come in. But life doesn't work that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
But we're lucky.
I like to say, you walk out of our door in the morning and take a look. It's like walking into a Courier and Ives print,
Of course it is.
you know, and there it is, right in
Yes,
front of you.
yes, and I love every minute of it.
Yeah.
From the time I go to bed at night, seeing the stars, till I wake up in the morning.
Yeah,
Big windows in my house, I
Yeah.
like to see that.
so I'm not suggesting, you know, that
I
we
know,
change this
I
into
know,
a
it's just-
socialist community.
I know, but it's that and that. It's like,
I just wish the people that were buying it for that reason could hear this kind of discussion from people who live here. Probably wouldn't make any difference, because they're doing it to make money.
no, and
And they have the right, I agree.
and then you have for example, we have somebody who lives in town, who owns 3 properties, 2 of which are rental, obviously, they can't live in all 3.
Yeah,
And they said the other 2 houses they bought were derelict when they bought them, and now they are,
fix them up.
they've been fixed up, they've been repaired, they're part of the community now.
Mhm.
Yeah, but 2, I think it was only one of the houses was derelict.
Oh, well,
Yes, and they're being used for short-term.
And also,
rentals
there's
not for
the people who
affordable
live
housing.
here.
and not for affordable housing, which gets you into one of the other conversations.
Exactly.
How about we move on from short-term
How can we
rentals?
make it affordable? That's the issue.
You can't, not here in Jackson.
I think every one of us who lives here has respect for the land, respect for the beauty that you see, and there's no better example of that. And what people who are visitors do is to look at Jackson Falls in July or August.
Yeah.
As a resident, you can't get near it.
No, that's not true.
Well-
There have been 4 spots open
For a rest-
95% of the time.
Okay.
And I can tell you that by daily monitoring.
Yeah, yeah. It's, since the police have been up there.
No, there's 4 spots.
No, there are 4
just for
spots just
Yeah,
for
yeah.
residents.
For renting.
Yeah, I know that.
Gotta have your thing,
I
but
know that.
nobody's using them.
Yeah, but,
Because they're waiting for the people to leave so they can use them.
yeah, but
Nobody's using
But
them.
I'm not just talking about where you can put your car. I'm talking about, you know, when you do put your car there and you walk out there and you find a family of 12 people with 4 big inner tubes, you know, camped out there for the entire day. And then the next morning, when you walk your dog there are diapers, there are tin cans, you know, there are dog bags that are filled with rubbish.
Mhm.
That's what short-term rentals does.
None of those people are in short-term rentals
Well,
here, Jackson. Not one of them.
Well, you don't know that.
Oh, I can tell you that for sure. I
Well,
can tell you that for sure. Because the people who are in short-term rentals can use the sticker from their rental.
Oh, I see what you mean, okay.
All right? And the people who are there, I go there every day.
Yeah, I know.
All right? I live there. I live across the street.
Yeah, right.
I walk my dogs.
Yeah,
Not just some of the time, all the time. I go and I see. before we had all the parking stuff,
Yeah.
6 years ago, I was on the Conservation Commission, 7 years ago, and I wrote up a sheet of issues, because there were 60 to 70 cars
Yeah, I remember that.
there, and it was the same issue 6 or 7 years ago. Now when you go there are roughly about 20 cars total.
Mhm.
I thought that short-term rentals could not use those stickers because they had to be affixed to the car.
Let me tell you that you leave the car that people borrow that has the car sticker, which
Yeah,
is,
they park the car down here and walk up, they put
Yeah.
everybody up and they walk up there and, you know, and then somebody comes along and picks them up.
But I'm
and-
just saying that there's not a sticker in a short-term rental that they can just take, and
well, they're not supposed to.
same with the dump
Yeah.
sticker.
Yeah, but go up there, as I did just the other day, and watch the New Jersey license plate with no tag, nobody bothered, and he threw his garbage into the recycle bin. So it's like, okay.
Oh, I know, I've talked to the dump attendant.
Um,
He
You know,
Gets into
for
some
every
serious
rule that
ideas.
you create, there's gonna be some scofflaw.
Mhm.
Yes.
And don't get me started on
Yeah.
people going 60 miles an hour down Black Mountain Road. And you know they do,
Of course I know they do. I've complained about it numerous times.
because they do it going down my street,
Yeah, they
and
do
I
it
drive
all
up to, I walk up to Black Mountain Road, and I watch them zip by there too.
I bet they don't go 60 by your street right now.
Lacey.
Oh my God, the Frosties over there.
Oh my God,
yes,
Cardinals
yes,
Road is
that's right.
I,
It was a speed bump.
an afterthought though is, I worry
That-
when we go up
Yeah,
Cotton
it's
Hill
worse.
Road
Why?
and the little kids are running out into the street and
Yes.
all that. I worry about, seriously, an
Absolutely,
accident of some sort.
absolutely.
We often will go up Black Mountain Road and come back, over the,
Over the Valley
Right,
Cross,
in the
yeah.
summer,
Yeah.
I never take Carter Notch, I always go up Black Mountain in
Yeah.
the summer to avoid.
yeah,
But if you want it, because I've asked the chief, you want the speed limit changed? That's a state road, you have to go to the state.
Yeah.
Town has nothing to do with changing
No,
the speed
you're
limit at that
absolutely
time.
I understand.
Speed limit's only 35 though, but people don't travel 35.
No,
But if you
and-
want to reduce to 30, hopefully to 25, like the town is 30, if you want the town to reduce to 25 and you want that road to turn down to 30,
Yeah,
They're still not gonna slow up, whether it's 30 or 35. They're still gonna
the
go.
speed bumps put in permanently.
Yes, I thought about that right.
But again, the
Front
state
yard.
would have to approve the speed bumps. So I
Only
already
if
asked
they
the
knew
chief.
about it.
Yeah. I've already asked the chief
Mother
about
Nature's
it.
done.
All right, those are great topics, except those are.
Really? I thought
well,
we
you
only
opened
had
this,
two.
you opened this up, you said we should have a
Yes.
fertile and
Yes.
fruitful
So,
discussion.
but things that fit within our purview would be nice.
So, and again, this may be outside, has nothing to do with short-term
I'm-
rentals,
I'm-
I'm a school,
I'm open.
okay? Is there, because I read this again, it's not the most exciting document to read.
It is too, Sarah wrote it.
Is there any, I was trying to, we can't, there's a fad also coming around, a thing going around about tiny homes, okay? And they're building parks, and not mobile home parks,
Tiny home parks.
but they're tiny home parks. The way I read this, that's not allowed here,
Good.
So why not?
because they're on wheels. So they're classified as mobile.
Oh,
And we
I
have,
guess-
there are two different kinds. There are
Yeah.
tiny homes that are permanent,
right.
but most tiny homes are on wheels. Just like a mobile home is
Yeah.
technically on wheels, because you don't need a septic for a tiny home. The-
Why
the-
not?
Where
Most
does
tiny
your
homes-
crap go then?
Most tiny homes use recyclable,
Compost.
compost toilets, because they are mobile. They can't connect to a septic, They need water.
Where do
and power.
they never empty into anything?
So why would they want to live here?
I'm just saying, it's a very inexpensive way of living. It's more environmentally conducive because you're typically solar powered, because they don't want to tap into the thing. The only tap into is really water.
So you put one person in it or two people, that's not a family. That's
You
not a-
can, a tiny home, you can actually have up to 4 people. You can have a family, up to 4, 2.
Has anybody looked down in Conway at that Hitching Post Hotel, motel down there? They made that into homes, supposedly. Charging an arm and a leg like $800,
That
$900.
has a terrible reputation.
No kidding. But do
Where-
we want to
where's
something like
this?
in Conway on the right-hand side as you're heading south?
I'm just trying to come up with ways of.
Well, tiny homes are a way of the future, you know,
Yeah.
with septics,
Yeah.
but not on wheels. And I think it's a fantastic idea. And I know you can buy them now,
Yeah.
Elon Musk, as much as I don't care for him, he sells them now. They're like $40,000, $50,000.
Yeah.
They come and
You can buy it on Amazon.
they're solar, yeah.
You can buy
And
them
I
on
think
Amazon.
it's a great idea.
I
for
mean, even
people.
if they're permanent, I don't care, but, because I saw that place, there's 3 houses that Ann Peterson, I think,
Yes.
was her.
Yeah,
Those 3 little houses.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
just so cool.
they are.
There's 4 of them. They're nice.
Is there 4?
homes. Yeah, I love them.
I mean,
That's about our only affordable housing.
well, that's what I'm saying,
But
they're,
they're already filled.
No, that have been from the beginning.
From
Yeah,
the
but the
beginning.
way they're arranged there, it really, it looks
they
nice.
look nice,
Yeah, they
right?
do.
So if somebody wanted to,
Your neighborhood.
right,
Land is really expensive here in Jackson. Nobody's gonna give land
Mhm.
to put those kind of homes up. They're really not.
I talked to
It
Ian,
all-
I talked to Ian about that. She said if somebody gives me the land, I'll do it again.
yeah.
Yeah, if somebody gives them
If
land.
somebody gives her the land,
Yes.
Mhm.
And
somebody has to be willing to give her $1 million.
Okay, let's ask.
Suddenly, you got some $1 million worth of land that you wanna give up, you know.
Yeah, she's got property up at Spruce too that she rents.
Yeah, but
But
that's.
she's just put her land, I think, all that in conservation, I think, up at the.
Mhm.
And that's a big issue for us because most of the buildable land here is in conservation.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have a friend.
And
that's
people are
planting-
continuing to put more of it in conservation.
Which is necessary if we want to control who we have here and live here and maintain, you know, what we want, the
So-
space and everything else. We
Yeah,
don't
so
want
the-
anything done on
it's
little homes.
Catch-22.
Yeah, the issue is about how,
And then
you know,
Getting rid of the tax rate,
pardon?
and you're getting rid of the tax down
Jerry had done some research from Habitat for Humanity, talked to them about, you know, doing something.
Yep,
And they said they have to have the land given to them,
Yep.
they have to have septic systems, they have to have water systems,
yep,
and then it can be a so-called affordable housing for one person a year. I mean, that's all they can, you know,
Yeah.
the land has to be given to them.
yeah.
Now, nobody's gonna give land here in Jackson as far as something like that goes. And then, it's gonna be like, they can't afford to do it, you know? Is that what we want here in Jackson? I mean, really?
there.
I mean, we talked about putting a complex up with like 4 or 5 condominiums, and one of them would be reserved for so-called affordable. And if the person happened to make any more money than they were told, they had a year to get out. I mean, that was really nice, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, come to Jackson, welcome, and, you know, out you go in a year if you make some more money. Now, that's not really nice either, but you had to have, somebody had to give you the land.
Yeah.
Because you have to put septic system in, and you have to water in, and that costs a lot of money.
Yeah, town water and town septic's the ideal situation for those.
Yes, and that's why Conway has the opportunity to do it down there, because they can have,
Because they can put up 200 units in a single development.
exactly, exactly, and we should be focused more, I mean, the valley should be focused more on where they can do it,
Yeah.
and, because 15 minutes up here, if anybody works up here, we don't have any housing for people to work. They have to come from Berlin or Madison or someplace like that. Anyway,
And even the Cheney property's gonna be turned into short-term rentals.
where's that?
It's right up here, Bob Cheney's house, on Moody Farm Road.
Oh, okay. How many houses are
Hmm?
there?
It's just one house.
It's one house, 3 cabins. But I think everything's a tear down, but they don't think so.
Really?
Yeah. She owns the house right before there,
Right.
and she turned it into a short-term rental.
And she's gonna do the others
I
with
think
you?
it's 4.2 acres with
Yeah.
it.
Well, maybe she needs the money, and that's the way she can still live there.
She doesn't live there.
She
Oh,
has it,
She
yeah.
lives in Portsmouth.
oh, okay.
Yeah, the gray house in front, just short-term rental.
Oh,
I do know that Overlook at least is stay in a house.
Yes, I know. We had dinner with Masons the other night. He was saying his son's pretty excited about getting started in the spring.
I don't know what they're gonna do with the cabins.
They're gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I think we're just saving one.
yeah, there was one, is that one of the, I
think
thought
that's
it
somebody's
looked like a
staying.
shed or something, it is one of the cabins.
I think it said that there was one that was still in good shape,
Yeah,
but the
back
others.
on the right,
Well, then that's improving the town as opposed to distracting from it.
yeah.
Yeah, because I saw them out there marking out, so the house is gonna be set back further than it was.
We wanted to save one of them, but it's just too far.
Oh, that,
Yeah.
which one?
The main is the front.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's been a,
Eyesore.
well, firebox. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been waiting for a match.
So that's a good thing.
No,
Mhm.
but that's a local person
What's inside there?
who,
Has
What was
anybody
inside?
been inside there?
what, Overlook?
Yeah.
Or
It's
Boucher?
not there anymore,
Overlook's gone.
it's gone
They tore it down in just a
Yeah.
few days.
a few months ago.
I missed it, they
Before
had
the
a sale,
Yeah, I saw that.
and they opened up the building for him, I missed it, I was in town for that, I would love you, because Barb's family has history with that building, never, Barb was a little upset when they tore it
Yeah.
down, because that's her
This
mother.
is
Her mother
Overlook,
worked there,
you're talking about,
Oh,
Overlook, yeah.
yeah, her mother worked there when she was a kid.
Well, so one of the floors you could.
Yeah, that- I know that building
Because
is
it was all
down.
rotten.
holes in
I think one of our opportunities for affordable housing, even with what we have, are some of the things we already have in place, which is, you know, the accessory dwelling unit
it.
opportunity. And I've looked into that. I tried to see what, you know, who said Tesla guy Musk. Yeah, okay. The unit he's talking about, yeah, it's a $60,000 studio box, and it can be put up in a day.
Yeah. Comes in auction, it just,
It's also sold out for 3 years,
Yeah.
so if you want to buy one now, you can get one for 2027. They're sold out entirely.
well, there are some, you go online, because I just got kind of interested in seeing what was, because if I could have gone into a small, you know, small houses like that, I'd probably stay in the business longer.
Yeah.
Just because I really feel that it's a way that people can have a home now.
Mhm. Mhm.
And just looking at the ones that are not the box, you know, some of the other guys that are out there, it's called Boxby or something, I'm trying to look it up. But just look up Musk and ADU and you'll find it. Most of the units that are out there for ADUs are minimum $200,000.
Yeah.
Talk about affordable housing, and then you have to have the property.
Mhm.
And, you know, for example, we're doing a lot merger here tonight. That means that's one more lot that's not available for building a property, to create a larger lot, which looks more like all the other lots here.
Exactly. There was one time you had it was 200 acres, I think, when we moved up here. You had to have 200 acres in order to be able to build a house.
It was a 2
2
acre.
acres.
2 acres,
Two
I'm sorry.
acres.
So I didn't say 200, thank you.
Oh, close.
Like we have like 6
Yes, when you
houses.
first moved, wow, you've been here a while.
2 acres, I'm
It
sorry.
was a 2 acre minimum.
Yes, it was.
And
Yep.
it was changed, in fact, it was changed the first year I was on the board, we changed to a soil-based process. Unfortunately, in Jackson, the soil-based property requires more than 2 acres.
Some places there isn't much soil.
In most places in Jackson, most places, about 80% of the buildable property in Jackson requires more than 2 acres. So going to a soil-based actually increased the number, the acreage required in order to build. It didn't, I mean, it sounds better to say that we don't have a minimum lot size. We don't have a minimum lot size, but we do require that you have a 200-foot frontage, which, well, when you get down to it, that makes your minimum lot size, if it's normally shaped, likely to be very close to an acre minimum required, but your soils, on average here, are gonna require close to 1.8 to 2 acres.
Mm.
So it doesn't change anything. We didn't change anything. We just made ourselves look more green. We didn't change anything for real. We don't allow, and I don't know anything about septic except I've always had a septic system at my house. Always, ever, except once. And we don't allow for septic systems that can be cleaned out. We have to have a soil-based field system. We don't allow tanks that can be, which are done in many commercial areas.
Let's say grandfather.
Unless they're grandfathered, and so we don't allow that. So our soils thing just basically has created I have 3 acres. It was a merged lot, 2 acres and 1 acre, before I purchased it, long before I purchased it. And the reason it was done was for septic.
Go up on Tyrone. Yeah, they don't meet any of the requirements, a lot of those lots.
And that happened and that whole thing was done when we didn't have a planning board. And the purpose of doing that was so that they could have 1/4 acre lots and sell many more of them.
Is that good view?
And they did.
So I'm confused, when you said there's no tank, a septic does have a tank.
Yeah, but the old systems had a cesspool. They could be stone lined, they could be block lined, they could have been
But that was a long
railroad
time
tied
ago.
So, I
lined.
mean, but so today we do have a rule that you have to have
Yes.
a tank and a leach field.
I think
Yeah.
the minimum tank size now for a 3-bedroom house, I think is, God, is it 1,500 gallons?
Is it 1,200 or 1,500?
It could be 12.
I think it's
It went up-
12.
It went up from 1,000.
It was up from 1,000. I think it's 1,200 is a minimum, but throw a garbage disposal in here at 15, right?
Yes, yeah, disposal, you've got to upgrade it.
Hard to remember that.
I know I keep trying to talk to people into taking them out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I do.
So is
So
it,
do we have enough discussions to,
Yes.
next year?
What
you haven't
else?
shared any of yours, you said you had a bunch.
What else?
Well, I figured, we have capital improvement as the, kind of the focus, and STR updates, to keep track of, and affordable housing probably will be mostly a discussion, and then, we should spend some time with our general dissatisfaction with the state of the world. I think we have been
Thank you, Dick.
we've been doing. But I think we've got a pretty full, plate for the next year if we can handle all those things in a reasonable way. I mean, as you said, the capital improvement plan is going to take a good deal of it. Every spare moment we have from short-term rentals or whatever else is going to take, the focus. So I'm hoping that we can get on with that discussion.
I have another one that I would like to bring forward, and it came up when we were doing the short-term rental, and that is something in the village district or not in the village district. We have a zoning map. Have you seen our zoning map? Our zoning map looks kind of like somebody took a highlighter out and just kind of
500 feet either side.
500 feet
16
either
or
side of 16 or 16A. And that's our zoning map. And so I guess my question is that, can we do better than that?
Well, we had suggestions when North Country Council did the, build-out study. She had suggestions of other ways you could do zoning.
Is that something that we could possibly look at this year, or is
It's-
that really
it's-
hard to
It's
do?
a
Or
can of worms in that there are people, there was tried, I think at one point, a long time ago, that people didn't want the village district to go all the way up Route 16. They wanted to cut it off so that the northern part of 16, which is all residential anyway, was part of the residential zone. That did not get voted in.
No.
And that kind of died at that point. And since that, I mean, people say, oh, we can't change it because it was voted out. Well, it's different, slightly different constellation of people here now. So I don't know, and we all have the situation where we have at least 3 non-conforming businesses in the rural residential area that are grandfathered. So what are we gonna do about that?
Mm.
So it's probably something worth looking at, but
Even if we
Very
could
carefully.
even if we could clean up the map as a start, I mean, how hard would that be?
I
Actually,
don't
you know, kind of delineate the properties that would be included, and instead of just, I mean, really, it's a highlighter, guys.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't seen it, it's a highlighter. Somebody's taking a highlighter and just
Try
kind
on the
of,
back page of your zoning ordinance.
Is that what that drawing is? I thought somebody else did that highlight.
yeah, here it is, there it is, there's our map.
Yeah.
I'm serious, this is it. This is what it looks like.
Exactly. Been that way for decades.
I'm sure they did what was easy at the time, and
Well, I mean, you know.
So is this dark line?
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
it, that's the
village.
village district.
That's the village district.
Hmm.
Read the description under.
The village district. You've seen this map.
I think that was to, stop any commercial buildings.
I think Dick is the guy who did the highlighting.
So there's not really any logic to it, it's just,
500 feet
I
on
don't
the
know.
side,
It's been that way
since forever.
since the 70s. I think it was that
no, I'm
way.
just saying, to change it, you're saying that you would define it to more than 500 feet, or would you do it by property line, or you could do it either way?
You can,
Okay.
however you want.
That's something that a planning board has control over.
Definitely. If you look at Conway, they've got a whole list of different districts. Look at their map, it's nicely color coded.
Well,
But wouldn't we be,
I don't think Conway's a really
Encouraging.
good
No,
role model.
all I'm saying is that there are various ways of doing it. You can do it your highlighter method, or you can do it with blocks as to what's, you have a mountain district and North Conway
wouldn't that
district.
encourage more commercial building up and down 16 there, as opposed to telling them they can't be here? That'll really ruin Jackson.
Well, that's the way it is now. You get, it's,
They can do it, they can.
I mean, that is the way it is.
They
Well, I
can do
know.
commercial all the way up. What
Yeah.
we're saying is, do you cut it off and not have it go all the way up? To save this for residential area and not commercial use.
I think they open up a can of worms, to tell you the truth.
I think likely you might.
right. So you would
And
have.
they'll be,
You gotta break a few eggs to
somebody will
make
be
it
buying
happen.
up, 5 acres and putting 20 short-term rental units in there, so there you go.
Opening up can of worms has been the thrust of this meeting.
Yep.
Actually, I think we've been dealing with cans of worms the entire time.
But actually, if you keep it as a village, building a short-term rental gives you more flexibility. If you make it residential, then they have the 30, and because it'd be new, they'd have the 30 limits. If this is all commercial, they don't have the limits, they don't have any restrictions. They're open to do whatever they want, because the village, there's no limits to any of these. So making this residential does allow us to, just by doing that.
In other worlds besides Jackson, there are things like rural districts, and then there are rural district 2, and rural district 2 says, no, you can't do spot except have a individual home, as a for example.
Well, does that
To your
give
point
them-
around, making limitations. By doing districting, in fact, that is how the bigger towns like Portsmouth are actually able to enforce the short-term rental a prohibition by saying, we don't allow that in this district, period. And they have a different government structure than we have that allows them to do that, and we would have to change our entire government structure to do what they did. But you can do things like create districts that disallow, which we have the rural residential district now that disallows a number of things, except for the grandfathered businesses that are out there. And so then the question around districting and looking at that would be, what kind of things would you look at? What would you be willing to district at? And then what kind of prohibitions would you throw at it? Which ones?
Because, you know, what's sad is, I probably, no matter what we did, I mean, it's like Kearsarge, they've had restrictions since the 50s, and they're still having to fight it, you know, for short-term rentals. You could have rentals, but it had to be owner occupied, you had to be living there. And they're still going through the same thing, so.
Yeah, and that's a good question around whether or not enforcement is, and I don't know, the legal definition of what that is, whether or not they've constrained property owner rights or whether or not that it's been an enforcement issue.
I've also heard from people that
Give
have
us some
rented some of
information.
those places with the family lives there and everything else, and they rented them for years and years and years. Now they're being kicked out because the people said they can make more money in short-term rentals than they can with people that have been living there and paying a rent. I mean, we've
Sure,
had,
of course.
yeah, we hear this all the time in the store with people. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, well, I was, what it was, they were rooming homes in Kearsarge. I mean,
Yes.
My parents had one, they rent rooms to people.
yeah,
It wasn't full-time, it was just,
oh, these people were there, they had their kids there and everything else, and they were
oh,
teachers or something at the school. That's the only thing they could afford at the time. And they said that they had to get out in like 60 days because people were turning into short-term rentals
Yeah.
because they can make more money.
Mm.
And money always falls down to that little, you know, money. But they were up in Kearsarge, that's what I was getting at.
yeah.
And I know
What was
everybody's
one?
been complaining about it, I don't
Hmm?
blame
What
them.
was one of your other ones?
Oh,
I think we,
it's like they could say, let's get moving on this. Does Dick have his hat on yet? Oh, okay,
He's got his headphones on.
okay.
He's actually listening to music, he's not.
Just-
Dick, they're picking on you. You must be listening.
See, obviously it's not listening to us, right?
Uh-oh, I think you're in trouble now. All right, I'll take a look.
He probably feels we're off subject so much, you might as well listen to music.
Is it time for a motion to adjourn?
I'll see if I had anything else on my stuff.
We're half an hour late, according to
Yeah,
And, let's see,
I didn't think we talked this.
let's see, we kind of hit most of my items. Capital improvements plan, revisiting short-term rentals, zoning map update,
check,
affordable housing.
little check.
I said I wasn't interested in doing anything more about renewable resources. So no tilting at windmills. That was my list.
I wonder if it's worth really, and I hate to say it because it seems sad, but if it's not even worth spending time with short-term, with affordable housing.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
It just can't be done here in Jackson. That's why I thought if we, as the valley got together, like you said, there's affordable housing going up someplace there, and they are thinking about it. My daughter lives over in Lake George area, and there's a Sagamore Hotel there. And what they did is they built a whole complex for everybody that worked there, specifically for them, because they were having a really hard time,
Yeah.
you know, for people
Mhm.
to find housing there as well. And it was contingent on, I mean, they did it out of their goodness of their heart, but a couple of those big gigantic hotels that are going down there, do they have any room for these people to live there, to work there?
Memorial's gonna build their own.
Memorial Hospital? Oh, yeah? Well, that's
Right.
good.
And
Good.
somebody else is doing it too, and I
I'm
forgot.
happy to hear that.
Yeah, the Settlers Green,
The cell, was it?
the Bar
Settlers
Green,
Green
yeah.
is gonna try to do something too, but Memorial's looking to, because they can't, they have so many of these, travel
Travelers, yes,
nurses, they
yes.
don't have any place to live.
Yes,
So they are gonna figure out how to build something for
Mhm.
themselves to,
mhm.
for their own
Some
people.
of these travelers are making big dollars.
Oh, it's,
Do
Big
they have a shortage of them? They have to go to place, you know, like orthopedic surgeons and things like that, they have to, because there's shortage of them.
Yeah.
Kids work in the hospitals, just one, you know.
Do I think we could do something with affordable housing here in Jackson? Yes, I think we could. But it would require something out of the box different from everything that we normally consider. And I agree with you, it likely means that we have to have some way of acquiring land
Mhm.
as a base to start, and then deciding, you know, what is our objective? What do you want to do with it? How do you want it to happen? What do you want to occur? What would the end result be that you wanted to achieve? And if we understood that better, I think we would be able to focus better on how we might get there. I think if you understood where you wanted to get to, it's a lot easier to start the process of getting there. And I think that as long as we continue to talk about affordable housing, or, you know, we want a community that looks like this with, to your point, building a community that people want to be part of and be here and understanding how we do that well. And where does affordable housing fit in? I don't know what that means.
Well, we came here in the 70s, a lot of people came here in the 70s, and, you know, we were all young and, you know, everything else, and it just filled up, it was the times.
Yeah.
And things were affordable then.
Yeah.
And they're just not affordable right now.
I don't think I could afford my home
Yeah.
currently based on the value that's being put on it.
Exactly, and, that's the way it is
Yeah.
right now.
We had a previous selectman, and I'm not, I was never even then for selling property, but he brought up the land that we have on the back of this lot. You know, putting up affordable, I'd rather see affordable rentals than affordable housing, because I'd hate it for the town to lose the property, but, you know, he had brought it up, and I'm not saying I'm for it, because I have mixed emotions about it, but it is a thought.
Yeah.
Gray's Inn,
Yeah,
town could sell
Yeah. I mean, is it possible? Can you toss 3 tiny houses
Yeah.
that fit the requirement
They
for
will look like
town?
hell.
it on their property. Who knows?
Well, I don't know, I mean,
First of all, Jackson, the town of Jackson doesn't have much property. to
I
begin
know
with.
that, but we have, for example, a couple of places that are right here across from the fire station that are just kind of hanging off the cliff.
yeah.
I mean, those are like 1,100 square feet maybe tops,
Mhm.
and they don't look like hell. They look like places
I
that
wasn't-
belong in town.
I wasn't referring to them, I was referring to the tiny houses that you were talking about, putting here in the parking lot.
No,
That's
I'm
what I
not,
was
I'm not,
wondering.
what I'm suggesting is there's a possibility, there is a possibility that you could do something that, you know, hits the bullseye. And it's like any bullseye you try to hit, it's hard to do. And it takes work and it takes effort and,
Well, you were just saying that place that did overlook, the guy's trying to fix it up and, you know, make it a home again. And that's, you know,
Mhm.
that's good.
But that's not affordable housing, that's his house.
yeah.
And
Well, but still, he's still doing something as opposed to letting it rot and go away. But there isn't any property in Jackson that's affordable. And like I said, septic system and well, water and
Very
everything
little.
else.
There's very little.
Mm-hmm.
But if the town did sell their property at a very, very low cost, because the town isn't in the business of making money off of property, you then create a tax base that the town then recoups if they build something, because right now they're collecting nothing on that property. If you sell it for very little, below market value, to somebody who commits to, with the agreement that they will build rental apartments. I don't care, they build something to people to rent. You create property, you create a property tax base, and the town wins on that one. You know,
That would be like building apartments.
so what?
You want that here in Jackson?
If you want affordable housing,
Affordable
That's what
housing
it's
can't be
gonna have
made
to
here in
be.
Jackson.
forget about, for housing period. Okay? Housing period. Forget about the word affordable, housing period. If you want growth and you want people to live here, you have to build something for them to move here. You have to have something for them to move into.
Or you could create disincentives for people to have second homes so they'll sell.
I mean, you could. I mean, you could get a tax break if you're a permanent resident. You'd get a tax break.
But this is exactly why Jackson has the reputation it does. We don't want affordable housing, we don't want mini houses. Everybody's got their nose stuck up in the air, and that's what Bartlett looks at. They look at Jackson that way, and that's what we're seeing right now.
But they're right.
Oh, it's always been that
Yeah.
way.
No, it hasn't always been that way.
Well,
Back in the '60s, it was never that way.
I know, but we're talking about,
80s,
2022 right
90s,
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, this century maybe. You know,
Yeah,
it's already
everybody said the
we're
same
almost
thing.
25 years
Yeah.
into this century, you know?
Yeah.
It could have gone the other way,
Well, maybe it could be 100 times the size of the Ann Peterson thing with the 3 little houses there.
But look how much, that's not, I don't know how big that acreage is, but that's not a lot of property.
No, it
Build
isn't.
three-
It's
build
beautiful.
4 houses.
You know, they look beautiful there.
But she had to put up with a lot of aggravation when that all took place
Oh,
from
my
some
father-in-law
people in
hated it.
town. But she did a fantastic job there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody complained about Tyrol being developed.
Oh, yeah.
I'm serious.
That was 70s.
Nobody complained about that. Who made the money on that? I have no idea. Somebody did.
You know that property that's down by Ragged Mountain, that
Yeah,
has
that
the
they're,
roadway in?
yes, yeah.
Guess how much those properties are going for right now?
7 or 800,000?
They're taking over $1 million right now. Uh-huh,
They'll be sold before they're built.
that's what I mean, yes, for $1 million, so not 700 or 800.
I've looked at other
Is this the
property.
one by your place?
Mhm, yep.
I've always thought about that other property that's further down that road,
Mhm.
that has
The florist shop?
the floor shop, which unfortunately
Yeah.
man passed away, so now that's empty.
Yeah, both of them passed away.
But you have the houses on both, the
Mhm.
structures on both sides of the building
Yeah.
that,
But I think the land on the other side of the tracks has been sold.
how do you get access to that?
There's
Is
a
it-
road by the first one, when you're coming north, there is a road that goes out in there.
And it crosses over the tracks?
I'm not sure whether behind the florist shop, whether Brian had a road that went out there or not, because that was all Hill property years ago.
Oh, really?
There is a road that goes back there someplace, because
Yeah.
there's a farmhouse
Crosses
back
the
there.
tracks, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, that's after Brian's. Yeah,
Yeah.
the other ones, I think, because I
Mhm.
was talking with them, they wanted that 40 acres on the other side, and I almost think they may have bought it.
Well, but that was something else great.
Okay, so,
Because
any
that's
other,
Bartlett, right?
any other,
That's
any other
Bartlett.
brilliant
Bartlett?
opportunities?
Yeah.
Who's gonna have?
No, I think, I like the Lee Dixon.
Who's got the hat? Dick, where the heck is your hat? There we go.
I was gonna bring them.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No, I want to talk more.